Hello, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. I hope everybody is doing well. So this is your astrological forecast for next week, starting from November 20th, which is Monday. And we're going to talk about what's going to be happening next week. This is a week leading up to the full moon in Gemini. But once again, I'm going to leave the interpretation of the full moon for another video because there is a lot already happening this week and it would make the video too long. So yeah, let's just dive in. So we are starting the week with moon still in a sign of Aquarius. Moon will be moving into the sign of Pisces tomorrow on Monday, and tomorrow also we are experiencing Sun in Scorpio making a sextile to Pluto in Capricorn. Then depending where you are in the world, this could be happening on Monday night. For me it will be Monday night. For people in Europe and further away, it will be happening on Tuesday. We'll be having Mercury in Sagittarius making a trine to Chiron retrograde in Aries. Then on Tuesday, or again, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, depending where you are in the world, we are going to have Mars making a sextile to Pluto because as of yesterday, when Mars and Sun had a conjunction, now Mars is trotting behind the Sun. So whatever aspects Sun is making, Mars is making them few days later because Mars is now behind the Sun. So Mars will be making a sextile to Pluto on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, depending where you are in the world. On that day, just a few hours later, we are going to have Sun moving into the sign of Sagittarius, where it will remain until December 22nd, when the Sun will move into the sign of Capricorn. So on Wednesday, on 22nd of 11, 2 another master number frequency, we are having the beginning of Sagittarius season, which hopefully the energy will shift and things will become a little bit more optimistic and a little bit lighter because man, this Scorpio season has been quite intense, like not gonna lie. So on the same day, on Wednesday, the 22nd of November, we're going to have also Venus making an opposition to Chiron in Aries, obviously. And Moon will be also moving into the sign of Aries. Then on Thursday, we will have Sun making a square to Saturn in Pisces from the sign of Sagittarius, of course. And then on Thursday, Mars will follow Sun and move into the sign of Sagittarius, and Moon will move into the sign of Taurus. And then on Saturday the 25th, Mars will make a square to Saturn. And like I said, this is trailing just behind the Sun. So Mars is repeating what aspect Sun is making just ahead of the time. The Sun is making them ahead of the time, Mars is making them right after. And then, of course, on Monday, we will have the full moon in Gemini. As I said, I will talk about it in the next video, but on Sunday night, coming towards Monday morning, just before the full moon in Gemini, we'll have the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, making a trine to North Node in Aries. So this is a very positive, supportive aspect, which is obviously supporting this whole process of illumination, because full moon is an illumination when Sun and Moon are in your position. And later on the same day, Mercury, the ruler of the full moon in Gemini, is going to be making a square to Neptune. So again, telling us about endings. So again, let's just decipher and analyze all these aspects. But as you can see, it's a very busy week. 2 planetary changes, beginning of Sagittarius season, Mars also moving into Sagittarius, and tons of aspects. So talking about the full moon in Gemini, but taking into consideration most of these aspects will be still valid for the full moon in Gemini, but still I would like to leave that separately because it's just too many information. So okay, so starting the week obviously with Moon moving into the sign of Pisces. Again, we might feel like things are ending, things are coming to the close. Of course, Scorpio season is coming to the close because we are just about to enter Sagittarius season, which I feel that a lot of people might feel relieved about. And like I said, on the same day, on Monday, which is tomorrow, Sun will make a sextile to Pluto in Capricorn, and this is preparation for their conjunction, which will be taking place on January 20th on 29 degrees and 59 minutes of Capricorn, just before both Pluto and Sun will move into the sign of Aquarius. So this is a little bit like complex because of course Sun is the center stage. So with regards to Sun, Pluto is like in a waxing crescent, present in the Taurus stage. However, because it's the end of the cycle, you could say it's like the cycle is ending between the two of them. Of course, they make a conjunction once a year because Sun goes through entire zodiac once a, like over a 12 months period. And the last Sun and Pluto conjunction took place on 18th of January last year, well, this year actually, because we are still in 2023, even though I feel like I'm already in 2024. So this year on the 18th of January, we had the last Sun-Pluto conjunction. It happened just before the new moon in Aquarius, which is very interesting because, of course, conjunction represents endings, new beginnings. Of course, it happened in the sign of Capricorn still, but it was just before new moon in Aquarius, and Aquarius is obviously where we head in. Pluto is moving into Aquarius. And the very interesting thing is that next year, 2024, the conjunction between Sun and Pluto will be happening just before full moon in Leo. So isn't that interesting how things shifted? Because of course Leo and Aquarius comes as a pair because they are in opposition, in the natural zodiac, and it's all about being able to shine your light. So this year started with the flavor of, we need to discover who we individually are, right? North Node in Aries, that's where we're heading. And then next time, Pluto and Sun make a conjunction on the 29 degrees, 59 minutes of Capricorn. This is crazy. Is literally telling us, okay, this is the end. Of course, next year is the last year. Pluto will be in the sign of Capricorn for one more retrograde, and that's it. We will, none of us being alive right here, right now, will experience Pluto in Capricorn ever again. Because you would have to, who knows, but you'd have to be very old, obviously, to experience that. But all that said, this is fascinating to me. That is the 29 degrees, 59 minutes, literally 1 minute away from Aquarius, and it's just before full moon, full illumination of Leo archetype, which is the creative self-actualization, your authenticity, who you truly are. Follow your purpose, follow your North Star, follow your joy and passion, which is what everything is about. That's what we came here to experience. You came here to experience becoming you and actually discovering who you truly are in your essence, because we all are unique experience of the source, pieces of puzzles that are unique, and there is no one else like you. So that is just a side note, but to me it's just fascinating, and I have to geek out about this because it's crazy how these things are happening. And as I mentioned, on the same day, if you are here across the Atlantic, which is where I am presently, we have in the Mercury in Sagittarius making a trine to Chiron, again supportive aspect, and Chiron is, of course, coming into closing phase conjunction, is in a closing phase conjunction, coming into conjunction with North Node, evolutionary potential, North Node in Aries, where we had in leadership qualities, new beginnings, showing up for this pull of the destiny, for what you are being instinctually called to go and follow, like what do you want to go and explore, the path of self-discovery. And Mercury being in Sagittarius, so obviously our perception of reality is widening. We might be looking at things from different perspective, questioning things and seeing the deeper meaning, deeper truth behind what's going on and stuff. And of course that will become even more prominent once Sun moves into the sign of Sagittarius, and subsequently Mars will move into the sign of Sagittarius, because the energy will shift into Sagittarius. And I think Ceres is also some asteroid is moving into Sagittarius. I have it here. I'll point it out when I get to it. So Mercury Chiron. Okay. So obviously, as we know, everything is in cycles. Mercury and Chiron are going to actually have a conjunction, and this is again another thing to geek out about. They're going to conjunct 3 times next year. So now Mercury from the sign of Sagittarius is passing on information to Chiron. Chiron, of course, is in Aries, which is where it's been since like 2018-19, saying that there is a collective wounding. We are afraid to go in a new direction because of the fear of the unknown, fear of the unexplored, like, oh my God, better stick with what we know, the Taurus, comfort zone, survival, all these kind of things. And now Chiron is saying, no, you have to get over it, because North Node is in Aries, Chiron is in Aries. That's a collective wounding, and our individual wounding is the key between Saturn and Uranus, from what becoming outdated. Saturn is in Pisces, Uranus, where we heading into some unexplored territory, which will take us further, which will take us on the next step of our evolutionary journey. So Chiron making a trine from the sign of Sagittarius, again, it's about this opening our mind to higher possibilities, because Gemini and Mercury usually just accumulates information and goes like, okay, it's this and this and this. And then with the Sagittarius quality, it actually seeks the deeper truth. What is actually the orientation you want to choose to then follow? What is the direction, right? Because from Sagittarius, you go to Capricorn. So whatever you believe, you then manifest, you then create. So we have to be very discerning, Virgo, because from Gemini it goes to Virgo, then it goes to Sagittarius, the mutable cross. You have to discern what is your truth, because then you manifest it, right? Whatever we think in, whatever we believe in, we find a proof for. So anyway, so what I want to geek out about with regards to Mercury Chiron is that they're going to have 3 conjunctions next year, because Mercury will have a retrograde in Aries. So the first conjunction will take place on 20th of March 2024. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because because 2 days before, Mercury is going to conjunct North Node. Which is like, Mercury, North Node is evolutionary potential, Mercury, how we thinking, Mercury in Aries, have to think in a new way. I have my Mercury in Aries natally, which is why I talk so fast. And so 2 days later, on the 18th of March 2024, which is 1 week before the full moon in Libra, which is the lunar eclipse, we're going to have a Mercury conjunct North Node. 2 days later, Mercury will conjunct Chiron for the first time. And 2 days after that, 22nd of March, Mars will move into Pisces. Mars is the ruler of Aries, therefore it will be the ruler of Mercury and the ruler of, it's the ruler of Chiron and is the ruler of North Node. And that full moon lunar eclipse in Libra will be happening in opposition with Chiron. So, it's just crazy stuff. Obviously, Sun and Chiron will have a conjunction. So Mercury will conjunct Chiron in March, April, and in May, because there's gonna be this retrograde motion. So it's gonna be happening first time just before 1 week before the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra, not even. Second time it will be happening 1 week after the eclipse in Aries, and the third time it will be happening day before the full moon in Taurus. So, just again, I know I'm going into rabbit hole side notes here, but you can see how these aspects which are taking place at the moment are preparing us for this, what's coming, this next step on our journey. That's why they're so important. That's why they're so important to pay attention to, and also to pay attention to what is supporting this North Node, which is where we're heading. That's where we're heading evolutionary, whether we're ready or not, we're heading there anyway. So what is supporting North Node? Well, Mercury is supporting North Node, and they're going to have a conjunction right there amongst the eclipses, So this is something very karmic. This is something very significant, what's going on right now. And of course, we're heading towards full moon in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. So we have to pay attention what Mercury is up to, because Mercury is going to be the ruler of the upcoming full moon. So on Tuesday, Wednesday, depending where you are in the world, again, we're going to have a Mars making a sextile to Pluto. Now, Mars is easy because Mars is not the sun. So Mars is actually in the closing cycle towards Pluto. So it's the waning crescent. The waning crescent, when you look at the lunation, the last sliver. So this is the quality of Aquarius. It's like wanting to break free. So Mars being in Scorpio, as probably a lot of us experience, for me for sure, and I know my environment, people that I'm in communication with, they experience that. There has been a lot of stuff coming from the unconscious to conscious, being triggered, whether it was through physical experiences of loss, abandonment, betrayal, or observing the collective or energetical or spiritual experiences of these things, these topics coming up. Mars in Scorpio have definitely made us dig deep. There was a deep dive into our subconscious, our shadow, and bringing a lot of fears, potentially a lot of insecurity, a lot of stuff to the surface. Absolutely, a lot of stuff. That's the main thing. Actually, let me just wake up my phone so I have my notes. And so Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday night, Mars is going to make a last sextile to Pluto. Pluto is ending its 15-year cycle of transiting Capricorn. The ruler, Saturn, is in Pisces. Endings. So, Mars making the last sextile to Pluto before the conjunction. And when is the conjunction? On Valentine's Day. on the 14th of February 2024 is when they're gonna have a conjunction. Again, the relationship topic is coming up because the ruler of the skip step node, the skip step is Pluto, squaring the nodes, resolution node, south node, the ruler Venus is in Libra. So Venus is still there behind the scene, playing a very important role, and is 11:11, as I'm saying it here, local time. So yeah, so we have to always look at everything else. There is nothing is happening in isolation. Nothing is happening on its own. Like, oh yeah, Mars is doing this. Who cares about Venus? Nothing to do with Scorpio. Actually wrong, because Venus is very closely connected to Pluto. Pluto is the evolution, and Mars is in Scorpio, ruled by Pluto. I mean, come on. So yeah, so this is very important aspect leading us towards the end of the cycle between Mars and Pluto that actually started on 3-3-22. So that was the 3-3, which comes number 6, to 2022 was the number 6, which together is number 12, which is number 3, which is the Jupiterian quality, the expansion. The Sagittarius. Where is Mercury? Sagittarius. What's happening? We're just about to enter Sagittarius season. You see how everything is connected. So the last conjunction between Pluto and Mars, which now is coming to the end, the next cycle will begin on Valentine's Day in 2024, a few months from now. That cycle started on the 3-3-22. And what happened on the same day? Venus also conjuncted Pluto, so her cycle with Pluto started on the same day. She will have a conjunction with Pluto later on in February. I think it's like the 17, 18, don't quote me on that. I don't have it in my notes at the moment. And on the 6th of the 3rd, 2022, Mars and Venus made a conjunction. Actually, the conjunction between Mars and Pluto of course happened in Capricorn, but the conjunction between Mars and Venus already happened in Aquarius on the 6th of March 22, which was on 2 minutes, 0 degrees and 2 minutes, which is 2, is the duality, is the partnership, is the connection, is the relationships, right? So we can see, and this is also going to culminate, they also are going to have a conjunction next year in the sign of Aquarius. So all these cycles that began in the past 2-3 years are coming to the close. They're all ending, and they're all to do with this relationship, with this sense of disempowerment, with our self-value, with what we're going to be, where we're going to be heading, and our, fear of going there, but also understanding that there is no other choice. Like we just have to, make some changes anyway. So this is the sextile. Like I said, it's going to be preparing us for the upcoming conjunction between Mars and Pluto, which will take place on the Valentine's Day in 2024. Wednesday, we're going to have a sun moving into Sagittarius. So this is where we all hoping, okay, hopefully the energy will shift. However, it's a fire sign. So it requires us to start doing something. So again, just like we had previously, Virgo season, a lot of things were being brought up to the surface. Libra season, they were being triggered by other people. Then Scorpio season, again, deep introspection. Through whatever we learned during Libra season, we then now had to process it. A lot of stuff coming up from the subconscious to conscious, making us aware of what are these patterns that are still ruling our life, what are these, relational, approaches, again, relational patterns, but it's more like the dysfunctionality of our relationships, and this is any relationship, because everything in our reality is relational. Even your relationship to your food, it doesn't matter, everything is relationships. So that's what's been really highlighted now. And now we're moving into Sagittarius season, which is like, okay, well, what is the learning in this? What kind of direction we're gonna choose? What is the truth? What is this new new story, this new perception of reality we are going to be creating, because it's a fire energy. We're going to be creating. Mars is going to move into Sagittarius 2 days later. So this is the focus. This is going to be the focus for the next month until the Capricorn season starts on the 22nd of December in just over a month's time. So on Wednesday, which is the same day, the sun moves into the sign of Sagittarius, Venus is making an opposition to Chiron. So, of course, we know Venus and Chiron, there is some story going on because Venus has been having these multiple aspects going on with Chiron while she was retrograde in a sign of Leo, right? It was trines. And now Venus, because now Venus already had a retrograde in Leo for the longest time and realized, okay, now I know what is my purpose. You know, there was a case of mistaken identity. I thought I wanted this, but actually I want something different. This is my authentic self, la la la, you know, and now Venus is had put it into practice in Virgo, accumulating tool, and now Venus is in Libra, trying to, you know, like try to apply it to relationships, see where is the imbalance, where is the injustice, all these kind of things, and, you know, getting herself worked up. Now this Venus on Wednesday is making an opposition to Chiron. So, you know, opposition is the 180 degrees, is the process of illumination. Again, where are my notes? Venus is actually going to have the next conjunction with Chiron on April 21st, which will be right after Sun moved into Taurus. Sun is moving into Taurus early next year. It's going to be on April 19th. So, yeah, so Venus is in the middle of the cycle between herself and Chiron, which is obviously now bringing some illumination, some understanding, again, with regards to the past and the future, you know, like what are the relational patterns of the past that no longer serve us because potentially your needs were not being met. Maybe you were not being seen, maybe you were not being authentic, whatever it is. And this, you know, Chiron and this North Node in Aries, it's saying, well, we're going in a new direction. We need to go and follow this, or answer this call of destiny, because the way we were going is now ending. You know, it's ending. Pluto is ending in Capricorn. Saturn, the ruler, is in Pisces. It's all ending, you know, like it's not taking us any further. There is dead end. That's it. You know, and it's not easy. It's not easy. That's why with the Scorpio season, so many things were brought up to the surface, because it is not easy. It's not meant to be easy. The transformation and evolution never happened easily. It, like, I mean, if we, you know, like create less resistance, it feels like, okay, well, we just, you know, surrender to the process and just adjust, learn and adjust. But if we try to resist it, then it's very hard. Right? If we try to cling on to the familiar, to the past, to the comfort zone, even though we know on a certain level, whether it's energetic, spiritual, conscious, subconscious, or even physical, when your body says no, when, you know, we get sick or something, we know that the change is necessary, but it's the fear, it's the Aries, it's the fear of the unknown, which of course is a myth, unknown, you know, but it's the fear of the known, because that's what we project in. But anyway, that's for another discussion, which I already mentioned. So yeah, so this Venus conjunction with Chiron is going to happen obviously next year in April, so we're halfway through. And on the same day, Sun will be squaring Pluto in the sign of Aquarius from the sign of Taurus, which is again exactly what I just said. What is these values of the past ruled by Venus? Venus is the ruler of the South Node. What are the values of the past that we are holding on to for dear life? And Pluto will be already in Aquarius on 2 degrees. And Pluto will be obviously ruled by Uranus, which is also in Taurus, breaking us, shaking us up. Like, is this still what matters? Is this still what we want? Just in order to survive, is that enough for us? Like, no, because we're going now further. Pluto is in Aquarius by this point, by April 2024. So anyway, so this is Venus in opposition Chiron. What is the illumination of this process that we are halfway through? Venus Chiron had a conjunction. I believe that was in March also. Where is my... I thought I wrote it. Oh, yes, here. 3-3-23. Isn't that interesting? So Venus, Pluto, and Mars and Pluto conjunction happen on a 3-3-22. 3rd of March 22. And Venus and Chiron conjunction happen a year later. 3-3-23. That's like, seriously, you can't make this up. This is crazy stuff. And I have here that just before that, we had the full moon in Libra. So, I mean, seriously. Okay, so there was also Venus conjunction with Jupiter on the 1st of March this year. So we can say again the story, how the story was beginning, and then full moon in Virgo. And on 7th of March was the day when Saturn moved into Pisces. So we can see how all these things are showing us about how things are ending. The last conjunction between Chiron, ruled by Mars, obviously being in Aries, and now, you know, between then and now, the North Node moved into Aries, because at the time it was still in Taurus. And it was at the same time when Saturn was just about to move into Pisces. And on the 2nd of March, Venus conjuncted Saturn. So, I mean, this is crazy. Seriously, this is crazy. When we like walk down the memory lane and look at how these things started, because like we are now in a melee of that, you know, either trine or opposition or something. Unless there is a conjunction, we are somewhere in the process, right? So we might not exactly see like, what is all this about? Like, why are we even at this point? What's going on? Like people like, I don't know how I got here. But this is how we got here, from the conjunction, you know, that was where the process started. So yeah, so around the time when Venus conjuncted Chiron last time on the 3-3-23, Venus conjuncted Jupiter, Venus conjuncted Saturn. There was, you know, just before we had the, you know, this, just after, there was that Virgo. Was it before or after the Virgo full moon? Right after, 7th of March was full moon in Virgo, you know, again, ruled by Mercury. What is the story? How do we perceive the situation? So again, you know, I don't want to make this too boring into going too many rabbit holes, but yeah, halfway through. We are halfway through of that process that started during the Aries season, and it was telling us about, okay, things are ending. You know, that's when we had the 2 moons in Aries, you know, at the end of March and in April, we had the 2 moons in Aries, and one of them was an eclipse. So it's saying, well, there is a new process starting, you know, like it's time. Saturn is in Pisces, it's time is dissolving. So on the same day, on Wednesday, funnily enough, we have in also moon moving into the sign of Aries, now that we're talking about Aries. And then on Thursday, because as we know, Sun had moved into the sign of Sagittarius on Wednesday, on Thursday, Sun will square Saturn. And this is again preparing for the conjunction, last conjunction with Sun and Saturn happening obviously in a Pisces. Actually, no, I think that was still in a Capricorn season. Actually didn't write it down, but never mind. So Sun next conjunction will be taking place on the 28th of February 2024 in a Pisces season. I'm pretty sure Sun last conjuncted Saturn in the sign of Aquarius. So yeah, so that would have been probably a month before, but I don't have it in my notes, so I can't really say. But this is a square that is leading us to next conjunction, and that will take place on February 28th, and it's the same day when Mercury will also conjunct Saturn next year, which is obviously 4 days after the full moon in Virgo, which is the 24/2/2024, which is a very prominent magical date, obviously. So Sun square in Saturn, again, Sun being in a sign of Sagittarius, is trying to help us see the higher perspective. Like, what is the story here? How did we get here? And what is this perspective of this? Of course, with regards to Sun and Saturn, this is a crisis in action, because, you know, Saturn is ahead of the Sun, so crisis in action, so something that requires us to take an action on. And Saturn being in Pisces, it's like, what stories are we dissolving? Because now, after Sun had gone through the sign of Scorpio, and so many things were brought up to the surface, so many fears and attachments, you know, to the stories, to the belief system, to all these things. Now Sun will be squaring Saturn on Thursday, which is the day of Jupiter, which is what rules Sagittarius. Sun will be squaring Saturn from the sign of Sagittarius. It's saying, okay, well, now we had this deep process of death and rebirth and metamorphosis, which of course is ongoing. I mean, this is not something that just happens and that's it. But now what out of what we were attached to, we know that has to go, because then when they're gonna have the next conjunction at the end of February next year, right after the full moon in Virgo, which is on 24/2/2024, but the conjunction is 28/2/2024, and Mercury also, like I said, is going to conjunct Saturn on the same day. Mercury is the accumulation of information, perception of reality, and you know, it's all going to be happening in Pisces, which is like, we need to connect to our intuition. It's not enough for it to just make logical sense, or to you know, like adopt somebody's stories or theories or belief system just because it makes sense to someone else. We need to connect to our deeper essence of who we are, deeper guidance. But also with regards to Saturn, you have to be your own authority. You have to trust yourself and your inner guidance, that's the one that is actually leading you to where you need to go. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. Nobody else has to agree, because just as I mentioned previously, everybody is living up their own stories. There is no one linear reality. Everybody is experiencing their own realities, and everything is continuously shifting, which is very hard for the human brain to comprehend. But actually, I just watched this video this morning. I will put it in a link, and I think it's very, very good thing to especially watch with regards to the full moon in Gemini. But it blew my mind because it perfectly explains. It's actually an interview with Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar for like 40 years now. So I mean, if you're not into ETs, then you might not be interested. But I mean, again, sooner or later, this is going to become part of everybody's reality, very likely. So anyway, just my opinion once again, but in this interview, this Daryl Anka, he explains these different timelines and how it actually works, these different linear and non-linear realities that we are experiencing, which is like hard for our brain to conceptualize. But really recommend. I will put the link in the description. Very, very much recommend. And it also might answer your questions with regards to where we're heading. And this what people might have heard, all these theories about splitting of the earth and how is it going to take place and what it's going to look like and what does it mean for my friends who are maybe, of a different opinion or whatever orientation spiritually and whatever. He explains it really well. So, I leave it to him to explain it to you because I'm not so good at explaining that. But with this Sun square to Saturn, you are your own creator of your reality. Saturn, as the construct of matrix, is in Pisces, saying, okay, well, these things are dissolving, as we can see, as we all are experiencing in our tangible reality as well, as much as the energetical and spiritual reality. We can feel it, we are all tapped into it because we are part of the same collective. And and with this square Sun being in a sign of Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, still until the end of the year, it's saying these stories are dissolving. They are dissolving because they no longer hold a meaning and because they are preventing us from going further, from going further on our evolutionary path, from going beyond of what is known, from going beyond of what had happened before. Because yes, everything is happening simultaneously, and as I said, nothing new under the sun. Everything we experiencing already happened. So, like that which we are now creating and experiencing, these are unprecedented times. Everybody is watching the show on planet Earth, like literally, because everything is shifting, everything is going to the next level, and we have to as well, because the evolution requires it. So with this Sun square to Saturn, there might be some things being, again, brought to your consciousness, because square is obviously the tension and it's crisis in action. What needs to be let go of? What are we still attached to with regards to this belief system and stories that is not allowing us to move any further, that is maybe making you feel small or making you feel victimized or making you feel that you are not in charge of your life? And this Saturn is now challenging that, saying like, well, I'm in Pisces over here, like it's time for you to take the charge of your life, because there is no such a thing as external authority. It's been you all along, So anyway, so very, very interesting interview. Once again, I will put the link below, and I highly recommend to watch it. It is a little bit complex at the beginning because they're talking about quantum physics, and I'm going like, like, okay. But then halfway through, I start catching up, and I'm like, okay, I understand this better, anyway. So on Friday, Mars moves into the sign of Sagittarius. Why is Mars important? Ruler of the North Node, evolutionary potential. Mars is how Pluto acts consciously. Mars, until this point, until Friday, was ruled by Pluto. Actually, Mars traditionally is the ruler of Scorpio. So traditionally, Mars was in his rulership. But by modern astrology, Mars was also being ruled by Pluto, in Capricorn, like on the last degrees, ruled by Saturn in Pisces. I mean, you can see everything is connected. There is nothing that is happening on its own. Nothing that is happening separate from everything else. Everything is connected, creating the baseline of the story that we are experiencing individually and collectively. And your individual experience might be completely different from anybody else's, and probably is, because it's yours, it's your creation. So Mars moving into the sign of Sagittarius, that this is where our focus will go, because Mars is our stamina, our vitality. It's also this new beginning. It's an archetype of a new direction moving into Sagittarius. Okay, Sun just gone over the same territory, already made a square to Saturn. Of course, still valid, still active, but now Mars is there, and so, okay, what are we going to do about it now? What new truth we need to adopt? What new perceptions? What new direction? What new perspectives? You know, all of this is going to be put into action. And that's what I mean. Like now the energy will be shifting. It will be very action oriented because again, all the planets will be in the masculine signs. You know, Venus is in Libra, which is air energy, air quality, is a masculine sign. And most planets now will be in the fire signs. I mean, yes, we still have Uranus and Jupiter in Taurus, but there is a big shift happening. Most of the planets, and you know, Saturn obviously is in Pisces, but all these fast movers are in the fire signs. And you know, in Venus's case, in air signs. So on the same day, Friday, as I mentioned, Moon will be moving into the sign of Taurus, where Moon is exalted, but you know, it will make us more connect with our needs again, because all these triggers to like, oh, what is the belief system? I don't know, like what is it? What is the story? Like what's going on here? You know, and now what we gonna do about it? Now this, you know, Moon is moving to Taurus. Like, okay, well, let's feel into it. Let's see, like, how does it make me feel? You know, what is my bodily response to all this stuff that I'm hearing? You know, because like it could be truth for someone else, but does it resonate with you? Your body gives you the answer, you know, when we tap into that. And then on Saturday, you know, obviously because Mars is right behind the Sun, Mars will square Saturn. But in this case, is the last quarter square, because Saturn is a slower moving planet. So between the two of them, Mars is the one closing to Saturn, which is a different energy, is the crisis in consciousness. So there is something that needs to switch with regards to how we perceive the situation. You know, it's like you have to redefine it. You know, it's not like taking an action. It's like we have to redefine it. We have to think at things differently. So then the, you know, Aquarian archetype can take place, this archetype of dismantling. My teacher calls it decentralizing, so no longer following and adopting everybody else's perception of reality, but individuating, and then letting go of that which no longer serves, dissolving the external authority and embodying that, you know, which is this, there has to be that switch. So again, we're moving on. Sunday night, Moon is moving into the sign of Gemini, and yeah, here is the Mercury North Node, which I was already talking about, the conjunction that is gonna take place on in March next year. You know, right after the right before the eclipse in Libra, the trine. On Sunday, we're going to have the trine. Sunday night. Sunday night, we're going to have the trine between Mercury and the North Node, leading us to the full moon in Gemini, which will be taking place on Monday for most of us. I mean, you know, but as I mentioned, with regards to Mercury, if you are across the Atlantic, as where I am right now, this trine between Mercury in Sagittarius and North Node, which is a very supportive aspect. So again, we're paying attention what's going with regards to North Node, because that's where we're heading. That's the evolutionary intention. And Mercury is making a trine to the North Node just before the full moon in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. And like I said, later on the same day, Mercury, I believe it's squaring Saturn. Is it squaring Saturn? What is Mercury? No, squaring Neptune. So later on Monday, after the full moon in Gemini, Mercury will be squaring Neptune. Again, what are we dissolving? What lost meaning? But anyway, that's like the conversation for the next time with regards to the full moon in Gemini. But you can see where this is going, obviously, because it's just piling up on the same theme. But this is really positive. I mean, it's supportive. It doesn't mean it's gonna feel good, but it's a supportive aspect because it's supportive our evolutionary path. It's supporting us on where we're heading, but it doesn't mean that it's gonna like make you feel fantastic in your life, because it's Sagittarius. It's a mutable energy. There is a shift, there is a change, there is a movement required, flexibility, you know, with regards to, you know, with these squares that we have in Sun to Saturn and Mars to Saturn. It's saying, well, there has to be a shift. You know, there is a crisis in action and there is a crisis in consciousness. So it's saying there has to be a change. Something has to shift in order for us to go to the next level, because Saturn is going to move into Aries in 2026. Aries is the new beginning. So now is the work. Now is the time when we're doing the work. So yeah, and like I said, you know, I already mentioned Mercury will conjunct the North Node in March 2024, just before the full moon, lunar eclipse in Libra. So yeah, so this is pretty much it, guys. This is how the week is piling up for us ahead of the time. So we can see 2 planetary shifts, some squares, some trines, Mercury trine to Chiron, very good. Mercury trine to North Node, very good, because it's all to do with the, Aries energy, which is this new beginning. So that's why at the moment from Sagittarius, there are squares to Pisces, because it is helping us to understand through potential discomfort or situations that are challenging, very likely to do with belief systems. That could be all sorts of stories. Again, Sagittarius season, all sorts of stories coming up from everywhere, social media, mainstream media, because remember, when the nodes were in Gemini and Sagittarius, that was 2020, 2021. So we have to remember what was happening previously. Well, actually 21, 22. Well, the nodes moved in 22. Yeah, 2020, half 2020, full of 2021. Yeah, exactly. We know what was going on in the world during that time. That's where the nodes, the lunar nodes that are now in Aries and Libra, that's when they were in Sagittarius and Gemini, right? And the North Node was in Gemini. So there was so much information happening and coming from all sorts of places, right? And then there was an opportunity to discern, to use the Virgo archetype that is in between Gemini and Sagittarius, to discern what is your truth. It doesn't matter what anybody else is saying is their truth. That's their truth. That's based on their reality that they're experiencing, and it's valid to them. But what is your truth? So now, having all this energy focus on, on Sagittarius and these squares to Saturn, because this is, again, everything is cyclical, everything is coming around, and we know we have a lot of aspects, a lot of cycles ending that started in 2021, 2022. What is your truth? So that's why with regards to these squares, there could be, again, a lot of informations. We might be, bombarded again by a lot of information, a lot of truths, quote unquote, because there is no such a thing. Majority of things you hear, it's a perception of reality, subjective perception of reality. It's not the universal truth. Universal truth is if that is applicable to everyone at any time and it's always valid. No matter what, like the law of attraction, law of conservation, law of cause and effect, akakor, karma. These things are the truth. They are the law because they're valid and applicable to everyone, no matter what time, no matter what place, no matter what orientation of religion, culture, sex, doesn't matter. It's valid and applicable to everyone without default, yeah? But everything else, I'm not saying there are more of the truths, but not just the ones I named, but everything else, most of the things that we hear and perceive as truths are a subjective perception of reality. So with these squares that will be coming up this week, we have to keep in mind all the stuff that's happening in Sagittarius is making a trine to the North Node, okay? So everything is supporting us on our evolutionary path. We can see there are the last sextile, Sun and Mars, last sextile. Well, okay, Sun, it's complicated because it's the solar system center. But Mars, okay, let's talk about Mars. Mars, sextile to Pluto, this is culminating a cycle. So things are coming up. We had a Scorpio season where things were brought up to our conscious mind. We were being triggered to hell and back. We were being maybe re-traumatized. Maybe we were being made upset by, the scorpionic topic, abandonment, loss, betrayal, because it's very vulnerable, it's very sensitive, it's very intimate. Scorpio is a water sign. It makes us feel very deep emotions. Now we're moving into Sagittarius season as of Wednesday. Mercury is already there. And this is bringing a lot of belief systems to the surface. And the way that's going to get triggered is again by the external environment, because we're going from the internal to the external, it's the yang energy, it's the Sagittarius, the fire energy that is the energy of creativity, but based on the belief system. So with these squares that will be playing up, the squares to Saturn, there could be something, someone, whatever, external of you that we might have class as the authority, someone that is above us, the specialist, the expert, whatever, that will be coming up with information, truths that might trigger, because that will be again an opportunity for discernment. Is this your truth? Is this the story that you want to be experiencing? Because this is exactly what Daryl Anka talks about in that interview. It's a decision time now, and this is going to be so fully active for full moon in Gemini and new moon in Sagittarius, which are the next two lunations, because it is a decision time. It is a decision time to decide which way you want to go, which path you want to choose for yourself. So that's why I highly recommend to watch this interview, especially the second half of it, where they really get into the nitty-gritty of this stuff, you know, these choices, different timelines, the so-called splitting of the earth, and whatever theories that you might have heard before. Very fascinating. Again, it doesn't have to be your truth, okay? You don't have to agree what these people are saying, but it's interesting to hear other people's perspective and opinions and discern. Run it through your own inner system, through your own Taurus. How does this make me feel? Through your own Cancer. How does it click with my intuition? What about my stomach? Does it make me feel tense or what? You know, so that's why I feel because I'm Cancer moon, so I always feel something. That's why I feel that this is a decision time, and all these aspects that are taking place this week, that's why we're paying attention, because, you know, there are things going on with the North Node, there are things going on with Saturn, there are things going on with Pluto. Saturn rules Pluto. Pluto is the evolution. North Node is the trajectory, you know, the navigation system, the compass. This is important time. Like all of this stuff is important because of where we are collectively at our path of evolution. But Sagittarius season is very important because, like I said, everything that's happening in Sagittarius is trining the North Node, which is very positive, and trining Chiron, which is very positive because Chiron is telling us about the collective wound, which is preventing us from stepping into unknown, from going into this unexplored territory. So we keep repeating the same patterns. We keep reliving the same patterns, which now became outdated because Saturn is in Pisces. It's like, you know, it's not going any further. That's it. This reality is ending. Not ending as I don't mean it in the apocalyptic sense that, oh my God, the world is end. No, this is not what I mean. I mean the way we have been perceiving and experiencing the life here is changing. So the old is being transmuted into something completely different. Transmutation, not transformation. It's not going to be just upgraded version of the same thing. It's going to be something completely different because this is what Aquarius does. Pluto in Aquarius is going to completely change everything. Yeah, and we can see it already playing out with the relationships and, you know, all this kind of thing. Anyway, I could go forever about these topics because obviously Pluto Scorpio over here, I get fascinated by all this stuff. So yeah, so let's pay attention. Sagittarius season, trines to North Node, squares to Saturn, ruler of the Pluto, still until the end of until January 20th. And yeah, how this is showing up for you in your personal story, in your personal reality, what is being brought up to the surface of your consciousness that now you're questioning because you are comparing it to your belief systems, and you have an opportunity to let some of them go. Well, opportunity, I mean, there might be situation that will be quite triggering, right? Because squares, again, pressure, you know, like pressure. And it's all supporting us. It's all supporting us on our evolution. So again, with Scorpio and Pluto and all these, external planets, you know, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, the more resistance that we put out, the harder it will be. Because the evolution is happening. The time is now. The time is now. It's not gonna wait. It's not gonna wait for a few years from now because we're not ready. No, the time is now. So it's a choice time. It's a decision time. Like we can choose, and that's why, like this interview, which I, keep mentioning, I found it personally very helpful because it really explains where are we at, what's happening, why is it happening, and what are your options. So yeah, so if you would like to feel more empowered and understand, I invite you to check it out. You might not agree, it might not resonate, but it's another information that it might be worth considering. So anyway, I leave it at this, guys. As I said, full week, a lot of aspects, something happening pretty much every single day, 2 planetary shifts, a lot of activations, all in preparation for full moon in Gemini, which, just to remind everyone, was on the same day as Saturn station retrograde, June 17th, and now Saturn is direct. It's a time to redefine based on what we learned during Saturn retrograde. So I wish you all a beautiful week. I'll hop on early on next week with this astrological forecast first, just like I did last time, because the full moon in Gemini is on Monday. So I will try to record a video again by Friday or something like that. And yeah, let's just see what this week and this Sagittarius season has in store for us all. So wishing you all beautiful week. Much love, everyone, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.